अंजना जी।
जी। अरे यार लैपटॉप हैंग कर गया था।
बाकी कहाँ है?
बाकी अरे लिंक भेजे यार, वो हैंग कर गया था लैपटॉप यार, तो मीटिंग वो इनविटेशन लिंक क्लिक ही नहीं हो रहा था। I think we should start the meeting. We have already waited for 10 minutes. Harshnithi, am I audible?
हाँ, उन्होंने अभी ग्रुप में मैसेज किया है, 5 मिनट में स्टार्ट करेंगे।
Okay.
I think we can start the meet now. Hello. So,
Harsh, start the meeting.
okay. So, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I am Harsh Nidhi and I'm a law student. I think a lot of you may know me. Almost all of you may know me. I've been there in the last few meetings as well. And Sashi sir is not available with us today because he has some other commitments. So, I would start by briefing every one of you about this new group that has been created, and why is that has it been created so? So as you, all of you, amongst you, all of those who were there in the last and last to last meet, you must be aware that sir said that you have to take initiative and stuff like that, and not every time you'll be given work. So we've come up with an idea. We've made a ESG wing of our NGO, which is Tarumitra. We've made an ESG wing, of course, with the permission of sir, in which we'll understand about what ESG is firstly, because I'm sure a lot of you may not be aware about ESG as well. Some of you may know what ESG is, and very few, or I think almost none of you, must have worked in this regard. So wherever you guys feel, or any one of you feels that there's some issue with the understanding, or there's some issue, you just interrupt me, right? So I'll explain you whatever doubts you have. I'll clarify. But first of all, I would like to ask each and every one of you that is there anyone who feels that they just signed up for this just because for the sake of it, or is everyone really interested in exploring something new in the field of environment, in the field of, because as far as I can say, upon my understanding, everything that we have done up till now, or that the NGOs do, or that whatever we do, is very basic, which is very old. I mean, it's not that the problem has been solved, the problems have been solved. It's just that the problems are very old, and the solutions are also very old. Like you make a campaign, you create awareness among people, and then you go on and go forth. You just you know write mails, you publish an article, you protest, you go out on roads, which is just for the purpose of, say what, getting the authorities to not cut trees. I think which is very first world problem. So I would start by asking each and every one of you, does anyone have any like, does anyone signed up for this just because for the sake of it, or like everyone was willing and interested to go about something like this? Is there any response? Hello?
हर्षनिधि, आई थिंक आप पहले ESG एक्सप्लेन कर दीजिए और फिर ये क्वेश्चन देन आस्क
No.
पूछिए.
Before explaining what ESG is, I would like to ask, does anyone have any idea about ESG? Any one of you?
जहाँ तक मैंने बेसिक देखा था, ये एक टाइप का फ्रेमवर्क है। लाइक सेवी जो है उन्होंने
Okay.
प्रपोज करा था कि लाइक अगर कोई भी कंपनी या ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को इवैल्यूएट करना है तो 3 फैक्टर पे करेंगे। एक है सोशल फैक्टर, और एक है एनवायरमेंटल फैक्टर, और एक है जी का उसके अंदर का गवर्नेंस कैसा है उस सिस्टम के अंदर का, या फिर उस कंपनी या ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के अंदर का, ऐसा करके कुछ।
So this is what you understood. I mean, you must have found.
हाँ, मैंने नेट पे सर्च करा था ESG, तो उससे यही पता चला।
ठीक है. Is there anyone else? So I guess there's no one who's have any idea, or anyone who searched about it. Okay, fine. So I'll go by how did ESG come into picture, or how did it come into existence? So ESG is a short form. ESG is short form of ESG, which means environment, social, and governance. ESG means environment, which deals with the factors that are related to the environment. So, for instance, if there's a issue of climate change, if there's issue of greenhouse emission, if there's issue of biodiversity and loss and reforestation and deforestation, whatever, all of it would come under environment. Even the air pollution and the water pollution, all of it would come under the head of the environment. Why I'm saying so, I'll explain it to you later. Social aspect is when you consider the society and the social interaction, in the sense that, for instance, in a firm or a company, there are female and male workers. They are not being paid equal. In spite of working for the same amount of time, for the same work profile, for the same job, they're not being paid equally. So that would be something related to the working condition. That would also be something related to equality between male and female. It also be something related to inclusivity of a firm, because if a female is not being treated equally in terms of pay, in terms of anything, work hours and stuff, so it also is a question on the equality or on the practice that the company is doing. So it also is a question on inclusivity. Then you would say that the firm is not inclusive, the company is not inclusive because females are not being paid equally. So it is only exclusive to males. So this was a second aspect. Third aspect is the governance thing, in which comes the corporate governance and other governance issues such as issues of corruption, issues of bribery, and issues of how a company should manage itself internally, and how a company should maintain its governance while interacting with the external organizations. For say, if there's an issue of data, for instance, if you're saying that you have submitted your data to a company, for instance, if there's anything that if even if you click something, there's a data from your side which goes towards the other side. So that is also a matter of privacy, that you clicked on something. So if you clicked on terms and conditions ka checkbox, it says that you've signed it. That should be privy between you and the other party. So that is a data which is a private data for you, and it should be between you and the other party, because no one should tell to the third person on what checkbox you checked and what terms and conditions you signed while opening any XYZ website, be it Facebook, be it Google, be it any other website. So now, in briefly, these three words are what these are shortened into the term ESG. Now, how did ESG come into picture? Firstly, this would go back to the year 2004. There was a report which was published in 2004. The title of the report was "Who Cares Wins," and that was the initiative of the financial institutions. But then the ESG movement grew, because it was centered towards corporate houses. Now corporate houses are are very much infamous for all of their activities and the byproducts and the side activities that they go on carrying, and the results of those activities that sometimes they are not even intended to, and sometimes they have intended to perform an activity, and sometimes the results are also intentional. So the ESG concept was first introduced for corporate houses, and which took form of the corporate social responsibility. But then it grew on, for the entire population. I think it became a global phenomenon, and the figures say that it represents more than 30 trillion US dollar in assets under management. I'm sorry, I'll take a break of few. So now there's a report, there's a website Morningstar which says that in year 2019, $17.67 billion flowed into ESG linked product. It was a 525% increment for 2015. So if you see in 4 years, the increment is 500%. You can understand why it is so relevant in today's era, that as we speak, we may go into different fields, we may go into different profession. It would not necessarily be environment based or related to the environment, just as an internship that you are doing. But the impact of this concept would be each and everywhere, whichever field you are working in. Whether you're working in law, whether you're working for a firm, you are an accountant, you are a consultant, whatever you are, this has to have, and this will have an impact. This is something which I would say a general awareness thing. More than anything else, it is a general awareness issue. Because in India, we haven't recognized this yet as a matter of law. There are several regulations by the SEBI which recognize ESG as a concept, and why inside the disclosures. So there are disclosures such as the actor has to disclose a lot of aspects which are mentioned in the LODRs. of SEBI. If there's anyone who's into securities law or whatever, they may be aware of. But anyways, cutting short, so ESG has been introduced by SEBI few years back, I think 2 or 3 years back. In 2018, Indian government introduced CSR, corporate social responsibilities, which is again which can be related to ESG, but it is not ESG as such in general. So but the entire point behind explaining you all of this in brief is that for you to understand this thing is very 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 into picture and into trend in the Western countries. Since UK has already introduced a charter, UK has already EU, I'm sorry, not UK. EU has already passed a law. EU has policies. EU has codified documents on ESG. US also is following similar model. There are if there's EU, there are a lot of countries in the European Union. So 50, I think 55 countries or so. So a lot of countries have already put this into place. India is lacking behind. Why India is lacking behind? India is a third world country. If India starts to implement uh, these ESG concept and the policies, if India tries to make these policies, there will be a huge amount of rebellion from the working class, from the factories that are into place right now, because India is a third world country, and by third world country, I mean India is developing right now. So India cannot afford to have stringent measures regarding the environment pollution and the sustainability goals lacking. So for us, 2030 may be the goal for reducing the carbon emission by zero, due to which you must have heard our Minister Nitin Gadkari saying by 2030 we'll have no petrol and diesel cars, we'll have only electric cars and electric vehicles on road. So now relating that to the Indian situation, I would say that in some time, in due time, because this cannot be avoided, the entire world is doing so. USA has introduced the concept of carbon credits. So beyond a certain amount of carbon emission, you'll be liable to pay some amount of money. So which is the same as the polluter pays principle, which has in India been derived in some case laws. I'm sure a lot of you or almost every one of you would have read that Union Carbide case, wherein factory manufacturer, because of its negligence, polluted the environment, killed a lot of people, because of which they were asked to pay a certain amount, which comes down to the polluter pays principle. So now coming back to ESG, why we made this group? If anyone has any doubt about what ESG is in brief, again, I would request each and every one of you who's interested more to go and read about it, because there are huge amount of articles. I would say huge because for this being such a new concept, there are still huge amount of articles, and those are very reliable, because on these things people won't write unless they know, and very less people know. So if there is not much information, so there's no much manipulation, because people don't even want to talk about it because they are all running away from it. So if there's anyone who wants to interject or wants to ask something, I if there's no one, then I'll move ahead. Fine. So as a part of Tarumitra, I'm sure that you must have at times felt that there's no work, or there's some disinterest, or it's not very interesting. This, I promise, if you start reading about it, if you start working on it, it would not only be interesting, it would also be highly, you know, it would make you highly aware, and you will feel like, okay, I should have known this. Why didn't I know this? So for this, we made this group to engage each and everyone who feels that, okay, there's no work. Of course, if anyone wants to leave, they are free to leave. There's no issue as such. But since this is an initiative, and you know, people at times don't even know what is going on in this world. So I thought, I have felt that why not ask amongst our peers, wherever we are associated with, wherever we are working. Why not ask amongst our peers? Okay, fine. I want to do something like this. Do you want to join? So this is why this group came into existence. And the first thing that we are going to do is which I also am going to, each and every one of us We are going to go through the internet. We are going to read about it, not as a matter of task or as a matter of assignment. We are going to go through the internet. We are going to look for whatever is available on the internet. We are going to get a short idea of what this concept is, because the NGOs work in the field of environment. And for NGOs to understand that ESG is beneficial to them the most, is to actually realize that the environment thing binds the companies that we are fighting against usually. What are we fighting against? We are saying save trees. We are saying don't cut trees. What are the trees being cut for? Trees are being cut for in the name of development, for making something which a construction company would not have easily been able to get the license of. They paid to the officials. This bribery gets involved. G comes in. If they are cutting the trees which are not being usually allowed because they paid, so they must not be allowed because of some reason. There has to be some minimum number of trees in a municipality that municipal corporation may not be allowing. So if they are getting it illegally, they are also affecting environment. Now socially, I'm sure there are a lot of other factors which may also take social aspect into consideration. But these two, E and G, I explained to you right now how these two come into picture, even in a small example. So this is why it is important for us as a members of this NGO as well, that we need to know this concept. Because today you are fighting, you are saying that this Forest Conservation Act is not proper. There are some problems in it. There are some issues in it. Who will get the benefit of these issues? These corporate houses, of course. And I'm 110% sure that if there's not a corporate house which is in picture, if there's a government agency, because government usually awards tenders and stuff. So if there's government, that even a government department, even the construction department of a government has to take permission from the environment board or the environment state pollution control board or the other authorities that are concerned with the environment. So I'm sure that it is not very hard for us to understand that these issues, this concept will be and is already, but there's no this name was not there. But I'm sure this will be in some times to come, in some time to come. It will be ingrained in each and everything that we are looking at happening around us. So moving on to what, like, I'm not sure how many of you after this session would actually be still interested to actually work and contribute and actually go ahead with the plan and the idea that we as a team have. But I'm sure that if you go and read about it, you will see that each and everything that you talk about, pollution, air, water, any type of crisis that you talk about as an NGO, if you talk about any issue that exists in the environment, all have been incorporated into one single umbrella, that is of ESG. So after this meet, I'll see who all is interested. They may themselves leave the group if they are not interested. It's again a choice. There's nothing binding. If they are actually interested, so I'll explain how this will go about. We'll on stage one, which it is not on me on as to how long this would go on. It is on you guys as to how long this would go on, and we as a team, how long this would go on this stage one, wherein we would find about what ESG is, what are the concepts of ESG, what actually does the three heads, environment, social, and governance, mean, what was the history. In not more than 1 to 2 pages, we'll make a summary of everything. Now, if we want, and if the time allows, if it pleases to us, we as individuals, I'm talking about individuals, everyone will have their own report, 2 3 page report about advancements. For instance, there's a term called as impact investing. I won't go into a lot of detail. So I was working with some foreign law firm which introduced me to this concept, and I feel fortunate enough that I researched on it, I worked on it, and I got to know how investment is also, before investment also you have to take care of the environment. Imagine you are going to invest. What do you think? Do I have the money or not? Is the company debt ridden or not? Is it going in debt? Will the company be bankrupt someday? I don't think substantially apart from these two things you think about anything else. But people people have been advocating that the companies now have to think about the amount of carbon that it will emit before investing in an organization, or it has been emitting. So you understand, it may be very old for someone who's an expertise in this field, who's investing and who's into the topmost rank at this position of investors. For they may consider, but usually investors won't consider this. So these days these are created, and now it is being said that now people will have to do this. People will have to consider this. Unfortunately, in India, we don't have any law. But the thing is, the government in India is pushing for it. I think people are pushing for it, and in years to come, we'll have a concrete law. So it is of benefit to us that we are researching on it and we are writing on it. Maybe we can also get our papers published somewhere. Whatever that, all of it would come in future. But right now, the first step is we need to search about it. We need to look for it. We need to write down the points that we as an individuals felt is important. We need to refer some sources and we need to cite what sources we referred. So after this meet, we'll go for stage one, wherein we will collect data about ESG and the advancements. Not just ESG. ESG, I explained you, you will be able to understand in a day or two. Like you, even in an hour, you'll understand. So with this, I would like to finish whatever I had to say. And if people are not interested after this, they may leave it. Again, I would strictly say this, that this is not something wherein I am demanding something from you. This is voluntarily that we are doing it. We as a team are working on it. We as a wing of Taru Mitra, as an organization, we are working and we are trying to bring some change within Taru Mitra, wherein Taru Mitra could look on for wider aspects, wherein it has already been working on. Taru Mitra should look for wider aspects, and we as members of this ESG team are going to make sure. Now, this is again not asking you for half an hour, 1 hour a day. It is completely voluntary. Any time of the day, you feel like, okay, I have 5 minutes. You go on the internet, search about it, see what all relevant issues you found, points you found, write down in some page, and then you could maybe turn back on the group in like 2, 3, 4 days, which is, I think, super flexible for each and everyone. It is not rigid that it's binding you with time. You don't have to appear physically to a place. You just have to sit at the comfort of your homes, at the comfort of whatever work you're doing, and then maybe take out some 5, 10 minutes a day, half an hour in like 4, 5 days, 1 hour in a week, and then maybe give something in the group that, okay, see what all I found out after going through the internet. I'm bringing out to the I'm bringing out on the group. So in this way, this stage one would be there, wherein we would collect all the data available, basic primary data available about this concept. Now, if someone wants to go ahead and collect more data, they are free to do so. But this is what we've set the agenda on this first meeting. If anyone wishes to, leave that, you are free to, you are welcome to, because you are primarily not a part of this group. You are primarily a part of Taru Mitra. It is just a wing that you are working for. It is just a team that you are a part of. So you can leave this team. You can still be like you were in the Taru Mitra group, and then you can work on the day-to-day activities and tasks that are being allotted to you, if at all they are being allotted to you. So I think that is all that I had to say. Is there anyone else who wants to speak something? Any suggestions, any feedbacks, any recommendations, anything of the sort? Any objections?
लुक एवरीवन, देखो आप लोग को ना, जैसे ये ESG है, ये एक नया टर्म है, ठीक है। तो आप लोग सब लोग इसके बारे में एक बार पढ़ के आइए, इंफॉर्मेशन कलेक्ट करिए, ठीक है। आप अपना रिपोर्ट टाइप बना सकते हैं और फिर हम लोग डिस्कस करेंगे। लाइक अभी सब लोग ढंग से समझ नहीं रहे ESG को, ठीक है। तो आप लोग इसके बारे में रिसर्च करके आइए। अगर आप लोग इंटरेस्टेड हैं देन आप लोग कंटिन्यू कर सकते हैं, और अगर कोई इंटरेस्टेड नहीं है तो देन वो ग्रुप लीव कर सकता है। कोई बाइंडिंग नहीं है कि अब आप लोग ग्रुप में आ गए तो आपको करना ही पड़ेगा, ठीक है। और फिर हाँ लाइक यही चीज है।
जब आप लोग सर्च करेंगे तो आप लोग को हो सकता है कि इंटरेस्ट नहीं हो के भी एक दो लाइन पढ़ के आपको इंटरेस्ट आए। क्या पता आपको वो अभी नहीं आ रहा है तो 2 साल बाद इंटरेस्ट आए। अभी आप नहीं इसको मतलब वो सोच रहे हो कि कुछ है ये, क्या पता आपको 2 साल बाद ऐसे इंटरेस्ट है, आप न्यूज़पेपर में 2 साल बाद पढ़ो। तो मेरा बस वही पॉइंट है कि आई थॉट ऑफ समथिंग न्यू, आई एम शेयरिंग विथ ऑल ऑफ यू। तो आप लोग एक चीज एक बार जाके एक बार गूगल करके देख लो, 2 मिनट दो, 3 मिनट दो। आई थिंक सबके पास इतना टाइम होता है। अगर नहीं भी है तो इट्स फाइन फॉर, मतलब आई मीन देयर इज नो इशू विथ मी। मेरे को कोई इशू नहीं है, आप लोगों को जैसे रहना है, मतलब आप अपना अपने कंफर्ट के हिसाब से आप लोग देखो। तो और स्टेट वाला जो प्लान है, आई थिंक समवन हैज रिटन दिस। वो स्टेट वाला जो प्लान है वो कोई मतलब ऐसा मेरा प्लान नहीं है। जिसका प्लान है उसके अगर पार्ट आपको बनना है तो हिल पिच टू यू, बिकॉज अगेन वी आर ऑल वर्किंग एज अ टीम। हम लोग सब अपने अपने आइडियाज लेके आ रहे हैं यहाँ पे। ऐसा नहीं है कि कोई एक आदमी ऐसा कुछ बोल रहा है। तो दिस इज समथिंग डिफरेंट, दैट इज समथिंग डिफरेंट। इसके वजह से वो इफेक्ट नहीं हो रहा है ना होना चाहिए, एंड उसकी वजह से ये भी नहीं, मतलब द थिंग इज वी independently we are nothing, we are a part of Taru Mitra NGO. This is a team ESG which is aimed at a very wide thing, which is aimed at a very different thing, और for that we need to go step by step. तो ये पहला स्टेप है, पहला स्टेप है। तो if so it is not obstructing in any way. There should be no, interference of this work, this ESG का thing into that state वाला thing. I'll make this very clear. So I think you can speak, Harshita. I'm not a teacher or who's very strict that you cannot speak. If there's no issue with you, then you can speak. That's completely fine. That is what I said. If there's no issue, then you can speak. Okay. So I think thank you everyone for joining. If anyone still doesn't have anything to say, I'll say that okay, let's part now. और फिर हम लोग ग्रुप पे डिस्कस करते हैं कि फॉलो अप क्या रहेगा, और ग्रुप इस मीट का माइन्यूट्स हम लोग डाल देते हैं ग्रुप पे। और यू ऑल मैसेज ऑन द ग्रुप एटलीस्ट, और यू ऑल एक्सप्रेस योर अवेलेबिलिटी क्या या डिजायरेबिलिटी कि आप लोग कब फ्री हैं या आप लोग कब डिजायर करते हैं अगला मीट अगर करना है तो। अगर नहीं करना है तो कोई बात नहीं। अगर आप लोग को अगला मीट करना है तो कब करना है, कब आप फ्री हो। एंड आई थिंक मीट सारे हमारे ब्रीफ ही होंगे, 15 20 25 मिनट होंगे, ज्यादा टाइम नहीं जाएंगे। क्योंकि देयर इज नो पॉइंट ऑफ हैविंग यू ऑल बीइंग सिट, मतलब सिटिंग फॉर हाफ एन आवर, और मतलब जहाँ पे 35 40 1 आवर, जहाँ पे कोई पॉइंट नहीं निकल के आता है। तो इफ यू डोंट हैव एनी टू से तो ब्रीफ ब्रीफ मीट होगा, छोटा मीट होगा, लाइक अभी जैसा हुआ है, मैक्स टू मैक्स हाफ एन आवर का। ठीक है। तो सरना रिक्वेस्ट यू टू like end this meet now if there's no one who has anything to say.
ओके अगेन आई एम सेइंग कि आप लोग लाइक दो आई थिंक 2 days इज इनफ रिसर्च करके आने के लिए, ठीक है। और आप लोग आके फिर जो मीटिंग होगा उसमें बताइएगा कि कौन कौन इंटरेस्टेड है, ठीक है, आगे इस पे वर्क करने के लिए। और देन हम उन उतने लोगों के साथ फिर कंटिन्यू करेंगे
और आप लोग एक बार देखिएगा कि द रिलेशन ऑफ एनजीओज एंड ईएसजी एज वेल, because NGOs are also an organization, and you will be surprised that these days the NGOs are also being asked to be compliant with ESGs. So someday someone may come and ask कि तरु मित्रा भाई, तुम तरु मित्रा हो, तुम ESG से comply करो, ESG रूल से comply करो, नॉर्म से comply करो। I'm sure Taru Mitra must not be violating or may not be violating and is not violating any of the norms. But there will be a day when NGOs will be like Amnesty International was, their accounts were freezed because of matlab lot of reasons. Similarly, Greenpeace, which is an NGO, which is a popular NGO, I also worked at Greenpeace. Greenpeace was also, asked to explain why are there irregularities in their financial dealings. So this all comes under ESG. So I'll request you all to go about it, and then maybe if you are interested, you'll come up with whatever ideas you have, or if you're not interested, then fine. So I'll thank everyone for joining and being patient.
एंड
And
एक
with
और
this, I'll
चीज
leave the
कि
meet.
ये चीज लाइक फ्लेक्सिबल है, बट आपको एक्टिव रहना होगा, ठीक है। ये नहीं कि फिर वही 2-3 लोग मीटिंग में बोले, जैसे हमेशा से चलता है, 2-3 लोग बोलेंगे और बाकी सब सिर्फ ऐसे ही मीटिंग सिर्फ ज्वाइन करेंगे अपने प्रेजेंस के लिए, लाइक अटेंडेंस वाला चीज नहीं है ये, ठीक है। ये जो भी चीज हो रहा है, इस पे हम लोग काम करेंगे, इसमें अपने इंटरेस्ट से करेंगे, ये कोई क्रेडिट के लिए नहीं हो रहा, ठीक है। इस ऐसा नहीं कि सर देखेंगे तो सर कुछ बोलेंगे, ये अपने इंटरेस्ट के साथ करना है। तो आप लोग को एक्टिव रहना पड़ेगा, तो जो लोग एक्टिव नहीं रहेंगे देन हम लोग उनको हटा देंगे, सीधे सीधे ये बात है। तो एज्यूम कि सबको समझ में आ गया क्या है ये, तो देन आई थिंक मीटिंग एंड करना चाहिए। ओके,
Okay, thank you everyone. Bye. Good night.
गुड नाइट एवरीवन।